Welcome back to a new episode of Code Savvy. Now, anyone who has tried to set up a WhatsApp chatbot using Meta's official site would know how cumbersome of a process it is and how they make you jump through this n number of hoops. And in the end, it might not even work. Now, this very recently happened to me where I tried to set up a WhatsApp chatbot using Meta's recommended way of doing it. That is, go create a Meta business account using my Facebook ID and set up the various credentials. It was annoying to say the least. So I had to set up n number of credentials to actually get the thing working. And today morning, what I found out is that my whole flow doesn't work because of some update Meta has made, and this really frustrated me a lot. Got me thinking that we really need alternatives to what is out there on the official Meta site. And there are a couple of alternatives, good alternatives for that. So there is something called Evolution API, which is a Portuguese based organization, I presume. So their documentation is all in Portuguese, but I hear it's quite good. But today we'll be concentrating on Waha, which is a WhatsApp API. And it's quite simple to set up. The documentation is quite good. And I would say the core Waha service is free for us. I mean, it is open source. You can just use a Docker image to get it up and running. So that's what we'll be looking at. But before going there, let me just run over why using Meta is such a big annoyance. For argument's sake, let us imagine that we were creating a WhatsApp AI agent using Facebook or Meta as it is known now. What all would you require? For starters, you would obviously be requiring your Facebook Meta account. You would also be requiring your Meta business account, which was formerly known as Facebook for Business. And after creating that, you would get your WhatsApp business account ID, which you would need to provide in your other integrations. For example, if you're using Nathan workflows, which we will be using in this demo, you would need to provide it there. On top of that, for your sender and receiver mobile numbers, you would need to set up some credentials. So your recipient WhatsApp number is essentially your WhatsApp AI agent. And for that, you would need an app ID and app secret. To generate the app ID and app secret, you would need an app to be created, which would be linked to your Meta business account. And finally, you would also need to generate an access token, which would be linked to your sender's WhatsApp number, which essentially means you would need to provide your sender WhatsApp number within Meta. So you would need to register it. Now, there is a big problem with this process, cumbersome as it is. And the problem is that this would not work for, say, a starter organization or even, I would say, a mid-sized organization where you would want to your AI agent, your WhatsApp AI agent, to converse with new users. Because here a prerequisite is that your user's mobile number is already registered there. This would work fine with huge organizations, right? So big corporates where you have a pre-boarding session with your customers where you get their mobile number, you register it, it would work fine in such scenarios. And an example of this could be an insurance company or something in the banking sector. It works fine. However, if you are a small scale organization, say a restaurant which takes orders for takeaways, and you are using a WhatsApp AI agent for taking the orders, it would not work for first time customers, would it? Because they are essentially not registered with Meta. And that's a big problem because you'll be losing out on a big customer base And remember, you are a startup. You need your customer base. You need exponential growth. And this is a big inhibitor on your growth. There's a whole list of other annoyances as well. So if you are interested in knowing more, just pause this video here and go through this list. I'm not going to read through each and everything and put you to sleep here. Okay. Let us quickly glance through the major benefits Waha offers over Meta. So the first one obviously is it is self-hosted control. So Waha can be installed on your own server, giving you full control over data. Second is the multi-engine flexibility it offers. So it supports various engines like WebJS, Ghost, NoWeb, and more, allowing you to choose the backend that best suits your need. It is a language agnostic integration. So it provides RESTful HTTP APIs and it's easy to integrate with any language, be it Python, JavaScript, PHP, Kotlin, Go, C Sharp, so on and so forth. It has very rich messaging features, so you can send and receive text, images, videos, voice messages, polls, and even WhatsApp status updates. This is something you can only dream in within Meta. It is automation friendly. It has a dashboard interface where you can observe your message flows and you can configure different settings. It does not have any vendor lock-in. If you're going with Waha Plus, which is a paid version, it's a subscription essentially. It offers you much more features than the core version, which is what we will be demoing. And it has the community and open source support, so it is backed by an active community there. Brilliant. I am on the official website of Waha. So if you go to https://waha.devlike.pro, you will land up on this particular page. And if you want to go to the documentation, click on the documentation tab, go to overview, the how-to guides defines how you can do the setups. If you want to go for the subscription version, just choose Waha Plus, where it gives you what you need to do to actually subscribe to it and get some additional features, which by the way, we will not be requiring for what we are trying to do here. So we are all set to start the demo. I will be using Docker to host my Waha and Nathan services. If you're interested to know more about locally hosting your Nathan instances, just have a check into my previous videos, which are linked in the description below of this video. Right. So in my Docker Compose file, I'm defining my Waha and Nathan service. The Waha service pulls the latest Waha image. It exposes port 3000. The environment variables is something that we'll be updating during the session, so just keep an eye out for it. Volumes is optional for this particular session, but we will be requiring it when we do multimedia processing, essentially when we try to process something like documents or images using Waha. This is something that I planned for the future, but I've just put it there just in case you just want to know. And then you have your Nathan service definition. I'm using 2.2.1, which as of this date is the latest Nathan image. The port exposed is 5678. I go on to define some environment variables, the volumes, and again the network called connect. I'm using an external task runner for Nathan, and again the volumes and the network called connect, which acts as the bridge. And that is an overview of this Docker Compose file. Don't worry, I will be providing this in the video description below, so just check this out. Now let us get started. Alrighty, let us now fire it up. I'm inside the folder where my docker compose.yaml file resides, and I've opened my command terminal from there. I'm using a Windows system, by the way, and the command to get it up and running is docker-compose space up. As simple as that. And you can see it firing up. Right? So you can see my task runner, Nathan task runner is ready. My Waha environment, the app is ready. Essentially, my container is up and running, and my Nathan instance is now available on localhost 5678. So if I just click on this, right, it will open my Nathan instance. As you can see, I just need to log it in. And if I want to go to my Waha instance, okay, it would be available in localhost 3000. It asks me for my username and password, and where do I get it? So if I go back to my terminal here, right, you can see my dashboard username would be admin. That is the one that I'll be using, and the password is something I'll be copying from here. So just let me go to here, and you can see I am inside my home page of Waha, right? And this is the Waha Swagger documentation, where you would have various documentation regarding the guest post put delete requests. Have a look through it. What we're interested is in the dashboard link here. Just click on this and it will bring you to your Waha dashboard. Okay. Now the server is disconnected. We need to configure it, which we will do it in a minute. But if you have reached till this step, congratulations, you have overcome the first hurdle. Now let us go back to our terminal, right? And let us copy paste these credentials that you can see on the command prompt. This is what you would need to update in your Docker Compose YAML file, because remember, just a few minutes ago I did say we would need to update those committed out environment section within the Docker YAML file. So essentially this section here, okay. So just update it. So just update your API key, your dashboard username, and your password. The reason I strongly recommend you do this is because each time you spin up your container, the password and your credentials keep changing, which is can be a bit annoying, because it essentially means you would need to log in as a new user each time. By defining it in your environment variables within your Docker compose.yaml file, what you're ensuring is that the credentials do not change, right? Or for that matter, you could actually give it any credentials you wanted, and it would be static. It would be these credentials that would be used within your Waha container, right? So use your customized passwords if you wanted, or just fill in what has been generated by the terminal there, what is there in the terminal there. So just update that, and after updating it, what we'll do is we will restart our containers. So just updated these credentials, and what I'll need to now do is to uncomment this block here, right? And let me just go back to the prompt. Let me stop my containers and let me restart it. One thing you need to take care when restarting your Docker Compose YAML file is that do it using a new terminal, right? Start a new session. Otherwise, what will happen is it will pick up the old credentials that already is within that session there. So I had started a new session here, and you can see that it actually does not generate those credentials again. So it would be the credentials that I have provided in the Docker Compose YAML file. That is the credential that gets picked up. Something you just need to take care of. Now let me go back to my terminal. Let me do a refresh. And we are back in. Now let us configure our Waha server. Now, just in case you had forgotten to actually copy paste those credentials, or you misplaced it somehow, we can always get it back from your terminal. And the way you do it is just open your terminal and just type in docker inspect and the name of your container there. right? So in this case, I have used Waha 1 as my name of a container. So whatever container name you use, so in your case, it should be Waha. I have used Waha 1 because essentially I am running multiple instances of Waha inside my local system. So I had to rename it as Waha 1. In your case, it will be Docker space inspect space Waha, right? And it would bring you all the details of your Waha container. And if you just scroll up a little bit, this is where you can find your credentials essentially. So you have your dashboard username, your password, your Swagger password, and your API key. This is what we have provided to the container through our environment variable section within the Docker YAML file, right? This one's right here. Let us get back to configuring our server. First thing first, okay, so let's scroll down to the workers section here and make sure the name is Waha. The API should point to HTTP localhost port 3000. Click on connect, right? The name would be Waha. That is what you need to give. Give it in all caps. API URL, just keep it as the same, HTTP colon slash slash localhost colon 3000. And the API key, this is not optional. So you, even if though it says it's optional, you actually need to provide your API key, and you can get it from your either from a YAML file or from your Docker inspect command. Okay, so anything works. So I'll just copy it from my Docker inspect command that I ran in the terminal, and let me just go back here. Where yeah, this one here. And to me, if I do a connect, it would say that this is now successfully connected here. Don't bother about the first one. I'll just delete this. Yes, disconnect. So I have now successfully connected my Waha server. I have set up the credentials here. If you wanted, you could actually configure the default server that was provided there. All you need to do was you could just do the edit worker there, and it would still work, right? I just wanted to show you how you could do it from the scratch. The steps remain essentially the same. Now let us set up our session. So let me just move my video here so you can have a better look, and just do a start new. Okay. The server name would be Waha. The name, it's not optional, guys. It is mandatory. You have to name it default. No other name would work here. And this is because we are on the core version of Waha. If you wanted to use other session names, you would have to subscribe to their Waha Plus plan, which we are not doing. So this is well enough for us, right? And what else do you need, right? So the engine settings, leave it to WebJS. Okay. Metadata, we're not going to do anything right now. And for the webhooks, we would be configuring this from our Nathan node. So we would essentially need to set up a webhook node in Nathan, from where we would be getting the URL which we would be providing here. So let's do that. So let's go to our Nathan instance. Once you're logged on to your Nathan instance, this is a locally hosted Nathan instance, by the way, you can just click on create workflow, or I can just do start from scratch. I'll just do a start from scratch, and here I'll just select webhook, right? This one right here, and just select the test URL or production URL based on what you want. So if it is a production URL, you can just copy paste this and you can activate this workflow. Now it's called publish in the latest Nathan instant versions. So let us take the production version. Okay, let us take the production version, and let me just copy this URL here. Okay, and let me go back to my Waha dashboard, and I paste this webhook URL here, and here you need to make a minor modification. Instead of localhost, you need to change it to native. This is because we are using containers and the container name is native, right? So this is what we have to use here. This is how you would actually set this up. So this would be in your case. In my case, I've used a container name as n8n1, and that is what I would be using. And again, just to clarify, this is because I have multiple instances of Nathan and Waha up and running in my local system. So I cannot reuse the same container name, right? So this is why I'd actually need to change it to something like Nathan1. For your case, it would still be Nathan. Okay. And for the events, you can see there's a host of events that you can use. Just select message. Okay, we do not need session status or message any. We're just interested in the message event, and that's it. So I'll just do create and start. Okay, it says the session default already exists. It will not allow me to create a new session with the same name, right? So that is what is essentially happening here. So what I need to do is I would need to use the existing session, and I just need to configure it. So let me deselect it, and I'll just hit on the configuration pane here, and I'll just essentially redo the steps again. Okay, the name will be default, so I cannot change it there. And the webhook, just go down to the webhook session, and let me just copy paste the webhook URL. I'll change it to n8 and 1, and the events, I just need one event there. Okay, so I'll just have the message here, and this time now it should work. Okay, right. So the configuration has worked successfully. Now what I need to do is I need to configure my mobile number here. So what I would do is I would just click on this symbol here. Okay, and you can see it's grayed out. That's because I've not started my server yet. So let me start my server. You can see it's starting up, and once it has started up, give it a minute. Once it has started up, this login button should be enabled, or you can use a QR code. Okay, now it says you can either scan the QR code. So if you click this, it will generate a QR image, or it will just say login. So I'll just do a login here, and it will bring me up a QR code. This is what I would scan on my WhatsApp mobile. Okay, so if you go to your WhatsApp account, and if you scroll up towards the right hand corner towards the top, you would see three dots there. If you click on that, you would see an option called link my device, and if you click on that, you would have an option to scan a QR code whereby you can link your device to another device, right, using the QR code. And that is what you will need to do. So I'll just pause it here, and I'll log in and come back. So once you're logged in, you should see your phone number in this section here, which I've blanked out for security concerns there. And make sure that you have successfully logged in before you go to the next step. Now let us go back to our Nathan instance, and let's continue our configuration from there, because this is what we this is all that we need to do with Waha, right? All the remaining configuration would be within Nathan. So let's go to our Nathan instance. I'm still within the webhook configuration pane here, and we also need to do one more thing before we actually move on. So we need to change this to post. So the HTTP method is not get, it would be post. Okay, the URL will not change. So there's no need for it to go back and reconfigure the URL. The URL remains exactly the same. We just need to change the HTTP method here. Now let's go to a canvas, and you can see our webhook is up and ready. Now let's test this webhook. So we essentially we may need to make sure that whatever message that we are sending through our WhatsApp agent actually reaches this webhook node. Okay, So I opened the screen of my WhatsApp AI agent right here, so you can see my screen here. And what I'll now do is I'll execute this workflow and send a message to my WhatsApp AI agent. Hopefully, the webhook should pick this up if I've configured everything correctly. So let me click on execute workflow. You can see it's waiting for an event. Now let me send a message. Okay, so just let me say hi, and you can see nothing has happened, right? Zilch. And that's because there's something wrong in our configuration. So let's try to rectify it. Now if I go to my webhook URL here, I can see that what I did is I copied the production URL. Now this is supposed to work, okay? But after a few trial and errors, what I realized is that the Waha core version only works with your test URL. It does not work with your production URL. Now, this could be a bug in the new version of Nathan, or it could be something to do with how Waha core version is set up. I do not know. But essentially, what I'll do is I'll take this test URL, okay, and I will go and reconfigure my Waha session with this test URL. So I'm back on my Waha configuration page under the section sessions, and let me just click on this gear symbol, this configuration symbol in the default session. I'll scroll down to the webhook URL section here and I'll update this with the test URL. Okay. In my case, I'll just put N8 N1. In your case, just put it as Nathan. Okay, N8 So do not put the 1 here for reasons I mentioned before. And after that, I just do an update. Once you're done updating, make sure that your session is working. So it should be in working status here. Now let's go back to Nathan instance and let's test the workflow again. So I've cleared my chat session here and just let me send a message. Again, I'll just do a hi. And this time you can see the execution has worked, right? So I double click it, you can see the metadata and everything. So essentially, our message has been picked up. Now let us do the remaining configuration in Nate. Now for the next steps, let us quickly set up an AI agent node and a send message node. Okay, so I'll just move my video up here. Click on the plus node. I just search for AI agent, right? And it says source for the prompt. Yeah, this we would need to configure because we'll essentially get it from our webhook trigger node. And then we need to set up a chat model and a simple memory. This is what we will do. So to get data in this nodes, right? So I need some, again, I need to move my video to the bottom hand corner here. The webhook is empty, so I essentially need to re-execute the webhook trigger node. So let me go back, right, and let me just execute this node. Okay, so I'll just listen for a step event and I'll send a quick message. And I've got it, and I'll just pin this data, okay, so that I don't need to resend the message again and again. So let me now go back here. No, I'll just do a save. Yeah, and if I open my AI agent node here, I should have everything, right? So you can see all my metadata from my webhook trigger node made available. This is what I'll be using. So the source for the prompt, it will be defined below, and I'll just let us see where that message is. If I scroll down, yep, this is the body of the message. I just copy paste it, right? So I just drag it, not copy paste it. So I just drag this node from my left hand input pane into here, and If this is correct, it should highlight it in a neon green, right? So this is how it would be highlighted if you have done it correctly. Right, now let's just add our chat model. Okay, for a chat model, you can use any chat model if you wanted. Okay. So I'll just use, yeah, let me just use Gemini chat model. Or alternatively, I could just use something like Open Router, right? Which gives me a lot of options to choose from. So I'll just select this, and I've already set up my Open Router account. So if you do not have an Open Router account, I highly recommend that you create one. Just search for Open Router, just create an account, add some minimal credit to your account. $5 should be more than sufficient for what we are trying to experiment with, and then just choose any model. The good thing about this is it has hundreds of models that you can choose, right? So you could use Gemini, or you could use OpenAI GPT 4.1, GPT 4.1, excuse me, okay. Or you could use GPT 5 chat. Let me use 5 chat, okay. Let's see how that works. So in case you do not know what I'm talking about, just go to openrouter.ai, okay, and just create an account there. Once you've created your account, right, just add some credits to it. So go to the credit session. You would need to provide your credit card info, add some minimal credit. Like I said, $5 is more than enough. Go to the API keys section and just generate an API key. Copy the key, then go to your natal instance, right? And within your AI agent configuration page where you are configuring your chat model, okay, if you're not configured anything, you would be asked to create a new credential. Otherwise, you could just click on the drop down and create the new credential like this, and just paste that API key here and save it. That's it. Okay. Since I've already created an account, I'm not going to create a new account here. So that's fine. So I'll just go back. The model, like I mentioned, you can choose any model. You can use Gemini, or you can use Chat GPT, whatever you wanted. So I'm just using GPT-5 chat here. You understand the flexibility that Open Router provides, isn't it? So you could choose from a whole host of models out there. I'll just add a simple memory now. I will need to define the session ID, which I'll just define below, and the key should be unique. So I'll just scroll down and I'll just drag down the from, right? Because remember, I'm sending from a mobile number to this AI chat agent, which I've configured, right? And from the context of memory, the from mobile number should be unique. So if it is from a different mobile number, it could be an entirely new session. And that is why I'll just drag and drop the from part here. Context window can remain as 5, or if you wanted a really long conversation, you could probably make it 15. So this essentially is the count of the to and fro exchange between the two mobile numbers, between the WhatsApp chat agent and between yourself, which is the client. I'm back on my native workflow canvas, and what we also now need to define is the behavior of our AI agent. So essentially, how do I want my AI agent to behave? So double click on the AI agent node. It should open the configuration pane, come down, yeah, and just click on add option, and you'll see something called system message here. By default, it just says you're an helpful assistant. You could add whatever you wanted. You could say be a joker, be a sarcastic bitch if you wanted. But essentially, what I will say here is that you are an agony aunt who specializes in giving life lesson and advice. You have a sharp sense of humor and always end conversations with a witty joke. So this is just for fun, right? So let's have some fun. So this is how I want my AI agent to behave. Essentially, I want it to behave like an agony aunt. And I'll just close this and I'll do a save. We are nearly there, but not yet. Now we need to configure the send message node, which we'll do next. So click on the plus symbol here and just search for HTTP request node, right? Second one here. And this is what we'll be using to send the message from our AI agent to the customer or client. So let us now configure this. The method would be post. It is always a post. The URL would be this one here. So it would be http colon slash slash waha in caps colon 3000 slash API slash send text in camel cases. If you're wondering from where I got that URL, just go to the Swagger documentation, which is available in the home page of your Waha, right? So if you just type in localhost colon 3000, it should bring you to this page here. And if you just scroll down, it gives you the documentation, how you could call different APIs. So come down to the chatting session there, and right there you have post API send text, right? And gives you some parameters, the request body, but essentially this is the URL that you need to use. It would be your host URL followed by slash API slash send text in camel cases. Hopefully now this URL makes a lot more sense, isn't it? For the authentication, you would need to provide an authentication, because in earlier versions, I remember in Waha, you did not need to provide it. You could just get away without doing any authentication here, but it no longer works. So what you would need to do is you would just need to give a generic credential type, just select it here, and then just select header auth. Here the drop down here would probably, for you, it would say create new credentials. It has already picked up the credentials that I created earlier, but in your case, it would always be create new credentials. So I'll just do a create new credentials here. Name, you have to give it as X API key. So, right. So you can just pause the video here and can just copy this name here. It has to be exactly in this format, right? So the header key name should be X capital hyphen capital A small p small I hyphen capital key small e small y. The value would be your API key, which was generated when you first started your Waha container, or what you provided in your environment section within your Docker Compose YAML. So just paste that key value here and hit save. I'll just select any existing accounts, and I'm going to create a new account here. And other things like query parameters and send headers can be disabled, but you would need to configure your send body. Right. So if I'm back on the Swagger documentation of my chatting section within Waha, right, this is where we picked up the URL bot API slash send text. There you would have an example message. You could just copy paste this and you can make the required changes. So this is the format that you would need to specify within the body section of our Maven node. So if I scroll down after enabling the send body section, body content type will be JSON, specify body, again to select using JSON, and then here you need to specify the body. So I've already prepared the body spot here. So I'll just scroll down slowly so that you can pause the video and copy this, right? So the chat ID, I have taken it from the webhook part there. I just dragged and dropped it there. The text, I have to stringify it, otherwise it will not work. So it has to be in this particular format. The link preview would be true. The link preview high quality would be set to false, and the session would be default, right? This is all that you need to set. And let me just think we are all done here. Right. So let me just hit a save here, just in case it's a webhook with this HTTP request node. And let's try executing the flow, and fingers crossed it works. Now, before I hit execute, there's one more thing that I need to do. So if I go back to my webhook node, right, I need to unpin the data. Otherwise, what will happen is it will pick up this pinned data regardless of what chat message we send it. Right, let me close this and let me do a save again. Let me load my WhatsApp screen here, chat screen. Let me hit execute. And let me try sending some chat messages. Yeah, my AI agent is working and I've got a message here. Let's see what it says, what my annoyance says. Double hi. This is because I'd already sent it a hi. I see what you're doing, testing if I'm still awake or my circuits have gone out for lunch. Don't worry, I'm here fully caffeinated. What brings you here today? Yes, also fair warning, I end every chat with a joke so bad it's almost good to be true. Excellent. So this is an bonus section here. Say you wanted to add a bit more security to your webhook URL node, what do you do, right? So go back to your Waha dashboard and within your sessions, default session, click on the configuration pane here. So it will bring up the configuration pane where you had defined your webhook URL. Just scroll down, come down a bit, and then you can see something called custom headers, right? So if you just turn this on, okay, enable the headers on, you can see it has a header session here. And what you could do is you could customize it, so you can add any value you want. So say suppose I add something like tiger, x slash header slash one tiger, copy this header name here, okay, and you can just save this. So just do an update. Head back to your Nathan instance workflow, double click on the webhook node there, scroll down, right, and in the authentication section, click on header auth. Since I've already used it previously, it brings up my previously set account. In your case, it would be create new credentials, and this is where you would just give the header name, right, the one that you used in your Waha dashboard, the configuration pane here. Just copy paste it from there and the value would be tiger, and you just hit save. That's it. I'm just going to use the same configuration that I previously used, the same account. So I'll just do this here and I'll just do a save. Yeah, let's try executing this workflow again. Yeah, it has picked it up. So authentication works. Brilliant. Let's have a quick look at what Agnian says. The classic curiosity part, science part, poetry, it goes on to say a lot of things actually. So it's a good chatbot. It does what we have asked it to do, essentially be an agony aunt. I really hope you enjoyed this session. What I plan to do in the future is to take this session as the bedrock upon which I'll build other sessions whereby we'll try to process multimedia using Waha APIs. A quick word of caution though. Remember, this is not the official way that Meta wants you to use WhatsApp. So it would be closely monitoring the way you send messages, and it does not take it too kindly if you actually try to spam someone. Let us have a look at what the Waha's official documentation has to say about this. If you go to this page right here, which is waha.devlike.pro/docs/overview, they have an interesting section named how to avoid blocking, and it essentially gives you some guidelines which they expect you to follow, otherwise which they say your number could get banned. Because remember, Meta monitors your WhatsApp accounts very closely and they do not tolerate misuse or abuse, right? The first one is very interesting. It says only reply to messages. So when developing a bot for WhatsApp, you should never initiate a conversation. Instead, your bot should only reply to messages that it receives. This will prevent your bot from being flagged as spam by WhatsApp users and algorithms. This is exactly what we did. If you remember, we messaged our Agony Aunt app, right? Our web chat AI agent. It did not initiate a conversation. We initiated it. So we sent it a message saying, "Hi, this is my problem. Can you help me with it?" etc. etc. The guideline goes on to say avoid spamming, sending unnecessary content, other considerations, how you should process message, how to avoid getting banned. Very important, right? Essentially, it says never use fixed times, always try to group contacts by their area codes. So a lot of things going on here. Just have a read through. I found it quite interesting and useful. Towards the beginning of this session, I did say a lot of negatives and cons about how Meta protects WhatsApp. But remember, WhatsApp is Meta's child. It needs to protect it, right? So, but the number of rules and restrictions it has created is really annoying, and that's why we are forced to look for other alternatives. So let us use these alternatives wisely. Let us not actually spam anyone using these alternatives there. And on that note of caution, I end today's session. I'll see you again. Until then, adios.